In the garage, I do a lot of laptop repairs, more than you probably see in the videos. And the reason why is that laptops don't get a ton of views, so I try not to focus on that, and it's really repetitive. What I find with laptops is that it's always the same main story. It's either the laptop's overheating, so we're gonna have to do thermal paste. It's running slow. Most time it's an older laptop, so it needs an SSD. And then the other one, which I hate doing, is a screen repair. Screen repairs are just ridiculous. Most of the time with a screen repair, the hinges are broken, and then you have to try to make magic, either replace the casing around it. Sometimes I get lucky with a little plastic weld and all that type of stuff. But laptops can be intense. They can be a little discouraging, and a lot of people just kind of stray away from it. And then the other issue with laptops is that the repairs tend to cost more than what the laptop is worth. You go to Walmart, probably get like one of those specials, or even Best Buy, get the $300 to $400 special for a cheap laptop. And the issue with those laptops is like I talked about just a second ago, is that the repairs for it cost more than what it's worth. Customer buys it, and then a year later, spill action on the keyboard, which sometimes gets into the motherboard, or the screen is broke, or the hinges are broken, and then by the time you get the parts and the labor, it would probably be better off just going ahead and buying another laptop. Laptops are made cheap, and these are these low entry-level laptops, and the quality is not there. The plastic is very cheap, and then like now with keyboards, I find you can't just replace the keyboard, you know, just pull it out, pop in a new one. You gotta replace the whole top panel because they have all these plastic rivets, and yes, you can buy the keyboard, but the time you spend doing all 1,000 of those little plastic rivets, it's not worth the labor and the time, so you don't make money with it. And then the other thing I see too is that a lot of repair shops, and this is not ragging on any repair shop by no means, is they do charge a pretty hefty price to repair it. I had a customer that came in a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago or something like that, and they got a quote for from another shop, and they were gonna charge them $300 for thermal paste and an SSD upgrade, which I get it. They have overhead, they have employees and all that type of stuff, and I completely get it. I don't have that. I work out of my garage. I don't have a business front or anything like that. I do all the stuff myself, so I could charge a lot cheaper and help out the customer. But in the case of that, they spend what, maybe $300 for the repair, and maybe for $300 or even another $100, they could have gotten a newer laptop. And then the thing with laptops is that limited upgrade path. You buy one, and then all you can really do is, just depending on the model, because now laptops have the soldered memory or the soldered storage into it. You're lucky if you can replace the memory, you're lucky if you can replace the storage, but then that's about it. Gaming laptops, my opinions, are the worst. You spend at least $1,000 for for a laptop that's decent, sometimes upwards of $2,000. And then after 2 years, when the graphics card is just not working no more, or it's just not giving you the performance you want, that's it, you're done. And then you might be able to sell the laptop, you know, a year or two later for half of what you paid it for. I prefer the desktop route because, you know, even a computer that's a year or two old, you could put in a better graphics card, better drive, and all that type of stuff. And then the components for the laptop, everything is built in. You can no longer replace the GPU, CPU on them, even the barrel connector plugs on those. They're soldered into the motherboard. And my favorite one is when somebody comes and they say, hey, I've spilled my coffee or my favorite adult beverage all over it. Ooh, I hate the smell of adult beverage spilled on a laptop. I've gotten those a few times. By the time you dive into it, most times you have to replace the keyboard and the motherboard. I will try to clean it to see if we could bring it back around over then, but even then there's no guarantee. And a lot of times when I give the quote for it, my initial quote includes both of those parts, because you might get lucky, bring the motherboard around, but then the keyboard's not working. Or you put a new keyboard in and the computer's booting up fine and everything, but the connector or the little adapter, whatever you call it, the plug for the keyboard where the cable goes in, that got shorted, that's not working. So then it gets expensive. If you're looking to buy a laptop, I mean, don't expect a lot out of them. You got to be very careful with them because they are delicate and they can be money pits. And a lot of times customers ask me, you know, one thing that I can't keep in the garage is laptops. If I get a used laptop and I'm able to sell it, they sell really quick because everybody wants a laptop. But most of the time when a customer comes up to me and says, hey, I want to get a laptop, the first thing I ask them is, what are you going to use it for? How much are you actually going to travel? And when you sit down with them and you make them think of how much, you know, they're really going to use the laptop for what it's designed for, Most of the time, they could have gotten a desktop PC for the same price, get more longevity out of it, cheaper and easy to repair. So, I mean, laptops have their purposes, but like I said, as far as the repair aspect of it, unless you know somebody who could give you the hookup and do it cheap, or you're savvy with laptops and computer repairs, you got to be careful. It is, you could really you could really drop some serious money into it and lose out. So this video today, a viewer reached out to me, sent me a laptop that he had gotten. It's old. He's like, I just want to get rid of it. He doesn't have the power plug. It doesn't have a drive, which is fine. I think he found some memory for it. So I'm going to take this video to kind of show you why laptops, especially older ones, are really not worth it. If you're going to buy a laptop, I'll give you some recommendations at the end of the video, and we'll talk a little bit about that then. But let's dive into this. Let's show you exactly a typical laptop that I get in the garage and why I won't sell it. And if I can, I try to tell the customer, hey, this is not worth the repair. So let's dive in. So I already started taking a look at it. This was sent to me by a viewer. And I think, what is this? A Dell Inspiron 15. And laptops like this are what come in. Most times it's people that just use it for browsing the internet, checking emails, just basic stuff like that. And it's more convenient for them. But like I said, if you take it to, a traditional shop, just even going Best Buy, you're going to pay more money what it's worth than for the repairs. One way I'm able to help people with the cost of it is that I take in broken laptops and I just cannibalize them. I'll take the storage, the memory, the Wi-Fi card, if the keyboard's removable. I'll keep a lot of extra parts, especially if it's a typical laptop that just happens to come in for repairs. And then another thing too with laptops is that the power adapters, these just tend to just go out, they just wear, and yes, you can get a cheap one for Amazon for like $20 on it, but that just adds into the process, the profits if I'm going to flip a laptop. So, but with this one, it doesn't have the power plug, so we're going to use a universal one. I already started diving into it a little bit, but I haven't turned it on. I just took off the back cover just to kind of see what's it doing. I think it's DDR3, and it's one of the, I think the A4, A8 CPU AMD ones, which my opinion on those, they're junk, especially for the laptops. A lot of issues with drivers and stability. I don't know, let me know your experience about it. But this has 4 gigs of DDR3, so I just wanted to double check that. And it even tells you, only DDR3. And this is a prime example of this. Most times I only have 4 gig sticks of DDR3 sitting in the garage. So if I wanted to put 8 gigs, which would make this semi worth it, that alone could be another $20 for it. So definitely something to consider. You only have, options for 1 stick of memory. And then the other thing too with laptops, and folks, if you've worked on laptops, most people, they rip out the drive cage, which I get it because it's so much easier and convenient. They destroy the hard drive, but they also destroy it with the drive cage. So now if I wanted to get a drive cage for it, that could be another $10 to $20, just depending on where you get it. Probably $20 with eBay, with taxes and shipping on that. So I'm already looking at, for 8 gigs of memory, the caddy, an SSD, what? 20, a 256 gig SSD, maybe another 20, so that's already $60. Plus I need the power brick, another $20, that's $80. And if I was to sell a laptop like this, I mean, realistically, where's the profit? An hour of my work, I might be able to sell it for $100, and even that's probably too much in my opinion. Yeah, money pits. But if this was an older computer, more bang for the buck. But anyways, let's pop this in. Let's fire it up. Okay, I hear the DVD drive. Not sure if I'm supposed to get a light over here, but I'm not getting a light. Getting a flashing orange light. Oh, kind of went away. Orange, white, orange. Kind of SOS type deal. Nothing. Now I do know the battery is fully charged because I actually went ahead and charged the battery. Just to kind of rule that out, some laptops, if the battery is not fully charged and it's plugged in, it doesn't work. Whoa, got beeps, got beeps. And they're really loud. Okay, I don't want to hear that. So 3 beeps like that, if I'm not mistaken from the Inspirons, that might mean a memory issue. So let's see what I have lying around and what might work. Now this is older stuff. This is like DDR2, DDR3, older CPUs. This is my, ancient bin. Do I not have DDR3 laptop memory? Okay, I think that's a 3. Okay, so I got an 8 and a 4. Let's flip this over, pop this one out. This one could be bad or incompatible, not sure. I do know these work because I test this stuff before I store it. Good old Samsung memory. I think it's going to start beeping again. Okay. Maybe it doesn't like that memory. Let's pop you in. Now, if you are wondering, yes, this is the universal charger, and it is the correct voltage and amperage and all that type of stuff. I've used this one. What is it? Zozo. I've used it for years, and it's worked on tons of Inspiron, so I know that's good. All right, will you like this memory? Same thing. All right, so before we dive in a little deeper, I'm not going to go crazy with this one, but this is more to show exactly why older laptops are just really not worth it, and exactly what happens when you buy a cheap laptop like this and what you can expect sometimes even just a year later. Let's disconnect the battery. I don't know why I took that out. Let's put this back in. Pop that in. No battery. Just going to hold this just for a few seconds just to discharge anything. I have found, like, if you have weird things with your laptop, take off the battery, hold the power button, discharges stuff, and it works. All right. Pop it in. Interesting. So it's not doing anything. Typically, this is flashing white and orange. Maybe it turned off? Yeah, nothing. Let me think about this for a sec. So this laptop does have an HDMI port. Let's plug that in, see what it does. Nothing. No signal. So the chances of 3 sticks of memory being bad, zilch. Power adapter, I know it's good. Monitor, I know it's good. So probably have a board problem. It could be that the CMOS battery is bad, which could be causing the issue. So let's dive in. Just go ahead and pop this out just for good measure. Put this memory to the side. Get out my toolkit. And this is where working on laptops become fun. You got a bunch of screws. Some of the newer ones are not bad in the sense that they have, like, I think like 4 screws, and then you just got to pry them up. And that's probably the easier part. But then once you get into it, there's a lot of stuff you got to take apart inside. And I think, do I have to slide this out? Yep. Okay, do I have everybody deleted on? Let's see. Take a look. Nope, missed one. You see, and this is what I am talking about. You're able to replace this keyboard if it was bad. Can't do that on the new ones. Now, are there any screws over here? There is a screw there. Now, this is where it gets fun, because we got to pry it apart. And this is what people get nervous. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to get nervous too when I did this. I still get nervous. You gotta start prying and hoping that, number one, you don't break something. And this is where the repair just becomes dicey, because if you pull this out and the plastic is brittle, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna break it. And then who's responsible for that? You are. So now, what do? You tell the customer, oh, it was brittle and you have to replace it, or you just own up to the fact that you're responsible for it? Let me know your thoughts on how you handle those situations. I usually tell the customers the risk. You know, hey, if I take it apart, it's an older laptop, it breaks, you know, we might have to replace that too. Are you down for that? If you're not down for that, then I'm not going to mess with it. I mean, I guess at this point, it's just about discouraging the customer. There we go. And that snap, of course, is not confidence expiring. So now we got our CMOS battery up there. Let's pop this out. All right, so our battery is no good. This is a regular CR2032 3-volt battery, so let's pop this in. And now think about it, folks. We still haven't even dived into the thermal paste. Now, if we put this thing back together, we're able to bring it back alive, and then this computer is just running really hot, which is typical with any older piece of hardware. Now we have to take it all apart, put fresh thermal paste in there. Now you're saying, well, while you're here, you could go ahead and change the thermal paste, but we still don't know if it works. You got to think, how far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go? And then we have this. We have pieces of plastic that have broken off, which honestly, regardless of how you would have taken it apart, that's just going to be inevitable. And what sucks is I have to take this apart to get my battery. I'm not giving up on my battery if this thing is not working. So let's go ahead, let's pop in a 4 gig stick, plug this thing back on, and let's see what happens. Nothing. Let's disconnect this, pop in our battery, pop this thing back in, did a little flash, and still nothing. So I went through my stash and actually found original Dell laptop charger for the Inspiron, and well, still doing the same thing, not working. Tried it without the battery, still not working. Double check the connections, and obviously my money would be on that the motherboard is toast. So unfortunate. And that's the issue with these older laptops, and it kind of makes me feel bad because, like I said, you get customers that come in with this older hardware. They're trying to hold on to it a little longer because they just can't afford, you know, the fancier, newer stuff. Not much you can do, and then you're stuck in a pickle. You know, you try to fix it. You gave them the, you know, you told them, hey, you might not be able to bring it back around. So what do? Do you still charge them for the diagnostics? Yes, obviously. I mean, any business would do that. Do you waive it? And this type of stuff. And I run into this headache way too much, and I do feel bad about it, but it does happen. There's a buddy of mine who has a shop in a different state, and he charges a premium for fixing laptops, and his whole reason is because stuff like this. You run into it where the cost is going to cost more than what the laptop's worth. Obviously, this one we'd have to hunt down a board. Maybe we'd spend $50, $60 on a board for a system that's way outdated. I mean, DDR3, and obviously the time and effort that you have to put into it. So those are things you got to kind of weigh out. And that's why laptops, in my opinion, you buy them, you use them for what you got to use them, and once they get old, they're pretty much done for. So let's finish this video up and give you my thoughts. So as you can see, this is the problems you run into with older laptops. I get these in the garage a bunch, and more times than not, I'm able to kind of discourage the customer from wasting the time and money to do it. Now, if they're willing to pay me for it, obviously, I mean, I'm not going to say don't the money, but I feel guilty fixing something that's garbage or not worth it. In this case, it's not worth it. If a customer came in with this type of laptop, I would obviously tell them worst case scenario, and this is what I do for all these types of laptops. Hey, it might need a motherboard. You know, I can't solder or diagnose a motherboard. It might need a display. It's gonna cost X amount of money, and it's probably gonna cost more than what the laptop is worth. Now, if you have a high-end laptop that still has some pretty good value that's out of warranty, obviously, yes, you know, I will do the repair for that because it's worth it. You know, if the laptop is worth $800 still, and the parts cost $300, that's kind of worth it. Because then if you was to flip it, you could at least kind of recoup what you paid for the repairs. Obviously, you won't recoup what you paid up front for the laptop, but you know, those are things to consider. Laptops like this, it is what it is. You see them on the Facebook Marketplace, what, $100 for a basic laptop, and most times it comes with 4 gigs of memory, a mechanical drive. People buy them, and then next thing you know, it's coming into the garage and they're saying, hey, can we make this faster? And then I got to quote them for an SSD, some memory, and the biggest one is the overheating thing for that. So maybe for about $100, they spent $100 on the laptop, another $100, and the laptop is probably only worth $100. So laptops are money pits. They can be expensive to repair. They come into the garage, I'll take them, but I prefer doing the desktop stuff. And as you can see how involved it is to take it apart, plastic tends to break, and those are just all the things that you can end up going down a rabbit hole. And I do understand why certain shops charge a premium to work on laptops, because I mean, at the end of the day, you got to make money for your time. So I get it. So if you're looking for a laptop, stay away from these types of old ones that pop up on the Facebook Marketplace. If you're gonna buy the Best Buy Walmart special, keep in mind that repairing them is not as easy. They're not durable, they break very easily. And if you're looking for a used laptop, get online and try to find an old workstation laptop. I've seen i5 10th gen and i7 10th gens, IBM ThinkPad, and I'll post them on the screen. Those are my go-to. If I see them cheap on the Facebook Marketplace, I scoop them. A couple of weeks ago, and I should have done a video, I scooped one up. It was a i5 10th gen. It was an IBM ThinkPad. It just needed repadding, thermal paste, and I upgraded the SSD, and I was able to sell that for $350. Customer loved it. It was fast. And I think the thing with it too is it had one of those Quadro type graphics cards. So a little bit versatile, little gaming room, but definitely well built, easy to fix, and it will last. So with all that being said, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticisms. What do you do if you have a repair shop or if you fix computers when you get a laptop like this? What do you tell your customers? And what laptops do you recommend if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I'm looking to buy a laptop? Do you recommend some of that cheap new stuff? Is there another brand that you recommend? Like I said, I recommend the old retired workstations. They work really well. If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.